very, very bad for both of them. Meghan, who screamed, "Don't leave me, don't leave me," and Harry, who actually has leaned on his mother-in-law to be helpful emotionally.
For years, Meghan Markle told the world a story she wore like a crown, a story shaped by one mother, one bond, one origin. The story of a girl raised by a strong, loving mom who faced the world alone and built her daughter into a duchess. But what if that story wasn't the whole truth?
For some time, that things aren't great between Meghan Markle and her own mother, Doria Ragland.
Because somewhere, tucked away behind sealed records and quiet whispers, there's talk of another child, another life, that was never meant to be known. And that silence? It changes everything. Think about it. Meghan's entire brand, from Oprah to Netflix to those emotional speeches about heritage, it's all built on that one story.
She has been completely miserable in the last couple of public appearances that the fake Duchess forced on her.
The biracial daughter of a strong single mother in Los Angeles, a woman who beat every odd, stayed graceful through chaos, and became a symbol of resilience. It's beautiful, it's inspiring, but it's also so carefully crafted, almost too polished. And when you start listening closely, you notice something. Each time Meghan retells her journey, the details shift. Sometimes Thomas Markle is a doting dad, other times he's practically invisible. One minute she's studying international relations, the next, the degree seems to vanish. It's like watching glass bend, smooth, shiny, but always shifting until the cracks fade away. Except, now those cracks are starting to spread. It began with one tiny moment. Meghan's 2021 podcast, where she proudly announced her DNA test results. She was 43% Nigerian. She even shared that she called her mom Doria to tell her the news. And what did Doria do?
Probably during Meghan Markle's interview with Tina Knowles, where it became clear just how tense relations are between.
She paused, not for a second, but long enough for Meghan to describe it as a silence that filled the moment. At first, everyone thought it was sweet, a pause full of emotion. But what if it wasn't? What if that silence meant something else entirely? Because years before Meghan's revelation, another woman told the exact same story. Georgina Lawton, a British writer, published a memoir called Raceless. In it, she described discovering she was 43% Nigerian through a DNA test. She also called her mother. And guess what? Her mom froze in silence before responding. Same percentage, same pause, same reaction. And here's the kicker. Georgina's book came out in 2020. 1 year before Meghan shared her own 43% Nigerian story.
Now it has emerged that the strain is so bad that Doria Ragland has said enough is enough. I'm moving out of Montecito for...
Almost word for word. Coincidence? Inspiration? Or something deeper? This is where Doria Ragland steps out of the spotlight and into the shadows. Sources whisper that certain court filings from Doria, sealed away in Riverside, California, line up perfectly with years of her life that seem to disappear from public record. The missing years, the ones nobody can quite explain. Fans online have theories that Doria may have lived another life during that time, maybe even had another child, and if that's true, then Meghan's only daughter story isn't just fragile, it's explosive. Because if her identity's foundation isn't what we thought it was, everything built on top, the royal image, the empowerment narrative, the Hollywood reinvention, all start to look a little unstable. And that's why this story just won't die, because it's not just about Meghan, it's about the pause, the silence, the missing years. When Meghan arrived in Nigeria for what was supposed to be her glorious homecoming, it should have been her victory lap. The Duchess embracing her roots, claiming her heritage, proving her critics wrong. But instead, it turned into a storm, because the one claim that brought her there, that 43% Nigerian DNA revelation, was suddenly under fire. People online started asking questions, serious ones. DNA results aren't paper slips you can lose. They're digital, instant, stored forever. So when Nigerian officials reportedly asked Meghan to show her DNA test and she allegedly said she didn't have it with her, let's just say the internet lost its mind. Reports claim that even Nigerian representatives offered to verify her ancestry through their own genealogy system. And Meghan allegedly declined. That one refusal lit the internet on fire. Within hours, hashtags like #ShowTheTest and #43%Gate exploded across Twitter and TikTok. Memes flooded timelines, empty phone screens, buffering DNA reports, endless jokes about proof pending. The Duchess of Sussex was trending, but not in the way she hoped. Commentators compared the moment to Elizabeth Holmes, the Silicon Valley fraudster whose empire crumbled when she couldn't back up her claims. Others compared it to celebrities accused of cultural appropriation, trying to borrow identity as brand currency. Meghan's trip was meant to be deeply personal. But fans began saying it felt scripted, like an extension of her Netflix storyline. And once the internet turned, it was brutal. Every detail, her outfits, her speeches, even the Nigerian First Lady's comments about cultural modesty became memes and speculation. What should have been a celebration of heritage was now a circus of doubt. Behind the scenes, media insiders were panicking. One analyst told The Telegraph that Meghan's entire brand was built on authenticity, a woman who lives her truth. But if the Nigeria trip cracked that illusion, it could threaten everything. Netflix, remember, poured millions into her story. Her authenticity was her selling point. If fans started doubting that, her value in Hollywood could plummet. Executives were reportedly monitoring the situation closely, terrified this might become another Sussex-style PR disaster. And while all this chaos brewed, the internet did what it does best. It dug deeper. Bloggers unearthed Georgina Lawton's Raceless, posting side-by-side comparisons between her words and Meghan's. The phrasing, the emotional beats, almost identical. Podcasts and Reddit threads buzzed with speculation. Did Meghan read that book? Some asked. Did her team borrow from it? What started as gossip now felt like something else. A cultural reckoning. How much of identity can be curated? And how much must be real? Those quiet pauses between Meghan and Doria, once seen as tender, suddenly felt scripted. And the world wanted to know, who really wrote this story? The deeper you dig into Meghan's story, the more one name keeps echoing through the whispers. Doria Ragland. To the public, she's the epitome of grace. That quiet, composed mother who walked her daughter down the aisle, who stood alone but proud during royal ceremonies. She's been the symbol of dignity through every storm. But behind that calm surface, there's a paper trail that doesn't quite fit the picture. Reports point to 2 sealed court filings under Doria's name in Riverside, California, filed right around Meghan's early childhood. The exact nature of those cases? Unknown. Sealed. Even decades later, those pages have never been made public. For years, fans brushed it off. It's probably something small, maybe financial, they said. But once whispers of a hidden daughter started spreading, those sealed files took on a new, eerie significance. People began asking, were those filings about custody, adoption, something deeper? No one knows, but the coincidence is impossible to ignore. And then, there's the geography. Multiple sources claim that Doria spent long stretches of time away from Los Angeles during Meghan's early years, periods when she seemed to just vanish. Friends described her as disappearing for months, sometimes years, before returning as if nothing had happened. Some said she was working things out. Others hinted that she may have been living another life entirely. Could that missing time be connected to those mysterious filings? To the rumor of another child? No one can say for sure, but it's enough to make that silence between mother and daughter feel a lot heavier. The infamous pause, that long moment when Meghan told her mom about the DNA results, has now become a cultural obsession. People on TikTok replay it, slowing it down, analyzing every microsecond. Some caption it with the words, recognition or guilt. Millions have seen that clip. And suddenly, what was once a sweet mother-daughter exchange now feels like a crack in the story. Because when you line it up with Georgina Lawton's nearly identical tale, same DNA result, same pause, same reaction, it starts feeling less like coincidence and more like a script. And that's where the questions turn dangerous. If Meghan's brand, the very foundation of her fame and deals, is built on authenticity, what happens when authenticity begins to crumble? Media lawyers have started weighing in too. One told a British tabloid something chilling. If you've built a global brand on one origin story and that story shifts, every contract tied to it becomes shaky. And it's true. Meghan's entire Hollywood empire runs on her story. The royal escapee, the mixed-race Duchess who defied the monarchy, the woman who turned pain into power. But if even a piece of that story turns out to be borrowed, exaggerated, or incomplete, everything she's built could collapse like a house of cards. And what's more unsettling, Meghan's alleged double story isn't isolated. It's part of a pattern spreading through Hollywood. Identity, once personal, has become profitable. From TV ancestry specials to viral DNA test videos, heritage is now content. And Meghan? She turned her 43% revelation into a global headline, a symbol of belonging and empowerment. But if it turns out that number was borrowed or inspired by someone else's truth, then it's not just Meghan who falls. It puts the entire culture of identity-driven celebrity branding under scrutiny. What was Doria hiding? Who else might be a part of this family story? And if silence was her way of protecting the past, how long can it hold before it shatters? By the time Meghan's Nigeria trip ended, the narrative was out of her control. What began as a heartfelt heritage journey had turned into a media storm. She was being memed, dissected, and mocked across platforms. TikTokers were remixing her speeches with Georgina Lawton's audio clips, comparing them side by side. The resemblance was uncanny. Same phrases, same rhythm, same emotions. One viral post said it bluntly, Two women, one story, which one's real? Another meme, cruel but viral, showed Meghan holding a phone with the caption, DNA results not found. It wasn't just online shade, it was identity collapse. Live, global, and unstoppable. Mainstream media jumped in. The Daily Mail published a timeline charting Meghan's ever-changing narratives, from her early acting days to her royal years and Netflix confessions. The Guardian, the same paper that had praised Georgina Lawton's memoir, reissued the story, this time framing it with questions about Meghan's uncanny similarities. Even cultural critics started chiming in. When your brand is built on truth, one Sky News commentator said, even one borrowed detail can make the whole thing feel counterfeit. And while Meghan's defenders tried to fight back online, another group was watching quietly, the royals. For years, Meghan had accused the monarchy of controlling her story, silencing her truth. But now, the tables had turned, and the silence was coming from her side. Inside palace walls, insiders allegedly had one instruction: say nothing, let public doubt do the work. And it worked. Polls showed Meghan's popularity dipping, especially among younger audiences who once idolized her. Her approval fell sharply, while the media narrative grew colder by the day. But the harshest blow didn't come from the press or even the palace. It came from Hollywood. A streaming insider told Variety that Meghan's authenticity crisis had officially become a boardroom topic. Studios, the insider said, were worried about investing in future projects that hinged on her identity story. One comparison came up over and over: Elizabeth Holmes. Nobody wants another Theranos, the insider warned. It all looked perfect until the truth cracked open. If Meghan's story unraveled, even slightly, it could send financial shockwaves through every project attached to her name. Meghan Markle, once the Duchess who reshaped the royal brand, had become the test case for what happens when a story, no matter how inspiring, starts to unravel. In the weeks after her Nigeria trip, things didn't calm down. They intensified. What started as whispers about a strange DNA coincidence had grown into a full-blown storm of doubt. Every public appearance, every podcast quote, every Instagram caption, all filtered through one question: is it real? Netflix insiders reportedly pressed pause on several projects. Executives wanted to wait and see if Meghan's public image would stabilize. Publishing sources told The Times that memoir drafts focusing on her heritage were also being reevaluated, afraid they might pour gasoline on an already blazing fire. Even her supporters, the loyal podcast hosts and media personalities who once defended her fiercely, started pulling back. If your story keeps changing, one said softly, people stop believing any version of it. Behind palace walls, Harry was reportedly furious, believing this renewed speculation was another attack, another wave meant to break Meghan down like his mother. One thing's for sure, the silence around her past is now the loudest voice in the room. And if a single pause could cause this much chaos, imagine what will happen when the next secret breaks. If Meghan's 43% revelation could ignite this kind of cultural storm, what happens when the palace finally answers back with their own truth? Don't blink, don't look away, because the next chapter in this royal identity saga, it's coming, and trust me, you'll want to be here when it does.